A CEO came to us, one of our clients, and asked us, how do we improve onboarding for his AI-powered finance platform? We spent 20 minutes mapping out the onboarding process. We identified a few improvements. We were ready to go. That was nice. Great. 20 minutes, clarity. But the really cool thing, a couple of days later, he revealed that he'd rethought it and realized there was a way to avoid the onboarding process entirely. I love that. Mapping is best when we're showing information that just helps people to come to a better solution than they were thinking about in the first place. So we sent this out to our list and asked, hey, would anyone be interested in seeing the example quickly? And a lot of people replied. So thank you very much for all the encouragement. Let's dive straight in. We start with the customer, or in this case, the CEO had two customers in mind. That actually becomes a little bit important later. So two different customers in mind who had slightly different needs, but would both need to go through the same onboarding. So we say, who is it about? And we say what the project is. It's about onboarding. Then we're filling in the green happy path. So here, in order for customers to be onboarded to this, they had to join a call with a salesperson, get whitelisted for the platform, given a login, and then they could move forward. So they'd have to see the invite to the call, accept the invite, show up to the call. And at every stage along the way, you can see they could not do those things. They could drop out of the process. And that's all part of the mapping. At this point on the call, we check them for fit, and then they either get whitelisted or not. So again, another chance to drop out. Then we get to a bit of time passes, and either the customer either logs in or they don't. And that's an issue. We flagged at this moment that actually quite a lot of people were not even logging in. They got whitelisted, never came back. That becomes relevant later. If they do log in, then there are a few tasks they needed to do. We'd noticed that some people who logged in just looked around and didn't do anything. So we're putting that in orange. That's a dead end. That's a bad path. Instead, we wanted them to create a portfolio, connect a wallet, add some funds, check the funds, do a test withdrawal. And then we realized that actually all of this is just preamble. Really, the core loop, which I'm not going to reveal now, but the core loop is about tuning investments. It's about doing clever financial things, etc., etc. But that's where we're really trying to get people to. All of this onboarding is just getting over hurdles. Here's the point where it's interesting. They log in, right, or they don't. So now we're zooming up, and I'm going to show you what we started adding around that skeleton. First added in, right, this is a big red line. People are not logging in. That's an issue. And then we realized, okay, but hang on a minute, what's going on here? This whitelisting is happening potentially days after the call. So there's a big delay after the meeting. People are then getting an email, maybe, we don't know what the email says, saying, hey, look, you're whitelisted now. Maybe it's even a login invitation from a company that they don't recognize anymore. They probably get a lot of emails from a lot of different companies. So maybe they just don't know that this is now possible. So we should be telling them, we should be checking. But the real idea is, hang on, why don't we whitelist them before they get on the call? Because then we can speed up the whole process and walk them through manually. So that was the big ideas for optimizing here. On the weekly sales stand-up, we could just whitelist all the people who are going to have calls this week. If they show up to the call and they're not a good fit, well, then we just unwhitelist them. It's fine that we don't carry on and log them in, not a problem. But if they are whitelisted, then great, we can log them in right there. The salesperson can be on the call with them, bosh, log them in. We also had a thought about we're going to need at some point an onboarding sequence with a series of emails. We started thinking a little bit through what those might be. We then realized we're getting into, right, they've logged in to create a portfolio. That's when we're really starting to see wanted enough signals. This is lots of the colors here are from my way of doing multiverse mapping. Fundamentally, the greens are showing you the happy path, showing this is when it all works. The oranges are showing this is the horrible universe where the one person doesn't do what we need them to do and doesn't get the value, and we don't get our results either. Then the pink stickies tend to be stories about why we think that might be happening. We tell lots of different stories, and the blue stickies are coming up with options for action. What are we going to do about our stories? And then the purple ones, those are types of signal. This is a moment when if we see this happening, that's a signal that someone wants this enough to put in some effort or money or risk or time, whatever it might be. And you'll see that there's a big wanted enough signal here. this is when they add some funds. This is critical. If they click around, create 50 portfolios, connect a wallet but never add any money, that doesn't help anyone. That's not actually using the product. This is the big hurdle that we've got here. We need to make sure they trust us enough to get there. Um, but really, this is the point where we need to see the signal of adding funds. So all of that meant that we had a bunch of ideas for what to do and how to improve the onboarding process, how to get all of this happening during that initial sales call. So we could race people through all of these hurdles to the point where then they can actually be in there and using the core loop and getting the value out of the platform. So far, so good. All of that's good. Now, some questions that people had, which I'll answer at this point. How do you elicit the information? And what I was doing was literally just saying, well, what happens first? And they said, well, they have a sales call. I'm then filling in some of the details. So I guess they see an invite to the call, accept the invite, show up to the call. Great, okay. And then what happens on the call? We check them for fit. Okay, bang, check for fit. And then what happens if they're not a good fit? Well, they don't get whitelisted. So they get whitelisted if they. You see how this goes? I'm just telling the story. We're just mapping out what happens step by step. And often we'll jump back and fill in some gaps. We'll realize, oh, hang on a minute, there's something missing here. There's something I forgot. Boom, add it in. You're just eliciting this in a natural conversational way while drawing the picture. Someone else was asking, mostly curious about how the starting mentality of the CEO was and how receptive they were. This is a really critical point with all of this sort of stuff. In the case when I'm doing this, the CEO is someone I've been working with for years, and he's quite receptive to the way that I work, and we work really well together. And so I know that I can just start doing this, and we're going to have a good conversation, and good things are going to come out of it. But I do this mapping process the same, even with people who I don't know if they're going to be receptive or not. This is something that's incredibly safe to do. It's incredibly non-threatening. You're just asking questions that you need to know. You're writing out what happens. You're just showing what is happening in reality. There's no point in here where I am trying to persuade him of anything. I'm not trying to impose my opinion. If I'm suggesting anything, I'm saying that this is an option. This is something you could do. You could do something else. You could do something else. And we're capturing everybody's ideas here. We're not trying to say, well, I know the right way to do it. We're just showing what's happening, showing the possibilities. And that's really important because the next thing this person asked is, well, what's the point in your walkthrough when the CEO started to be open about avoiding the onboarding problem altogether? That's the twist in the tail for this whole story. We came out with this new plan for onboarding. We actually wrote it out. This is what the salespeople are going to do. This is how it's going to operate. Let's get that going as quickly as possible. Then, having had all of this presented to him, I didn't see the moment when the CEO started to be open about avoiding the onboarding problem altogether. It wasn't clear to me when we finished this call that that was an option. It was a couple of days later when I caught up with the CEO again, and I was catching up a little bit about we were going to start fleshing out the email sequence, and that was a piece of work that we were going to potentially do. And he said, actually, I've just had a brainwave. We had some customers down here. If we ignore customer one for now, or actually it doesn't matter which one, but if we ignore one of these customers for now, then we don't need to do any onboarding at all. We can avoid the need to onboard in the first place, which means we can get people into the core loop much, much faster because effectively he was kind of outsourcing some of the onboarding to a partner, to one of the customers. It's not a path that's open to everybody. It's not something that's always possible, but it was possible in this case, and it became visible because he saw this map, or it became interesting, perhaps I should say, because he saw this map and he realized, wow, all of this is happening. And what we really want is to race people to here and get them operating here. And so if we can remove the need for us to do all of this, we get to focus our energy on this bit right now because this is the pivotal piece for us. That's where I think the interesting thing is, by showing what this really takes, by just presenting the data in a different way, not talking about abstract ideas, not debating it, not suggesting a list of here are action items. Presenting this creates a different experience for that CEO. Could I have made him decide to cancel the onboarding? No, I wasn't aware that was actually even an opportunity for him at that point, an option for action that would fit with his strategy because I don't have perfect information. And likely, if you're working with other humans, if you're working as a consultant or on the team, you don't have perfect information either. So that's really the thing that I would say is most important about the mapping is we are collectively building this map. So I was capturing what everyone was saying all the time while making this map. We're collectively building this map. We're collectively sense making using this as a as like an artifact, which enables all of us to test what we're thinking against a model of reality and get information back, see how other people are thinking about it as well, which is interesting, and also consider more options than we would have otherwise been able to consider because we tend to be stuck in our own sense of here's how it should be. Now, that's how it always goes. Every time I do mapping, stuff pops out that I wasn't expecting, stuff pops out that other people weren't expecting. Nobody can predict how this is going to go. And so I'll be honest, sometimes we make the map and it's like, oh, okay, fine. It didn't massively help, but we've got this one idea, we've got a bit of a plan. But more often than not, it's much more interesting than that. More often than not, it leads to entire projects being binned, or it leads to us changing the order in which we're going to do something, or flushing out a technical problem that would have killed us in week 8 of the project, finding it on day 1 instead. And planning out, well, how is this going to happen? What is the orchestration around how we're going to get this into the customer's hands in the first place? All of those sorts of aspects are involved, which answers final question somebody asked, which is I'm most curious about showing how mapping first can help thought processes and decision making. And I think what I've just shown is exactly how mapping can help those thought processes and decision making. Now, I've got a question for you because I've noticed I've done this with hundreds of people now. And some people grab onto it and love it and take it away and they use it. And I love hearing stories back. So if you're someone who's done that, please, please do drop me a line. Tell me about it. How did it go? Did you find something surprising? Did it work for you? Or did it not work for you? Did you try it and it was a disaster somehow? I need to know about those too. Um, but there's a whole load of other people who see this and they go, well, yeah, that was nice. That worked. But then they go on and they don't map again. And I have ideas. I have lots of pink sticky notes with stories about why that might be. But if you're one of those people and you've seen this and you thought that seemed interesting, but I haven't done it and I'm not going to do it, then tell me, what's stopping you? How come not? What is it that makes you not just open a Miro and start making a map? Okay, that is all for today. As I said, a really quick one. I could go into tons more detail on this, and I do in my Master Multiverse Mapping course. It's about 4 hours of video explaining all of the details of this and how we use it to design experiments, how we use it to design research, how we use it to layer up different signals and sort of plan out whole projects. And there's lots more mapping examples in there, lots more information if you want to have that all you can eat type buffet. So that's available. I'll put that link in the description as well, along with the link to the original article, which gives you a bit more context about what's going on here.